Good afternoon. Happy Sunday. I hope my mic is working this time, and I hope you all can hear me. Happy Labor Day. If you're in the States, my name is Robert, and welcome to another Cook Along Live. Today we're going to be doing chicken cordon bleu. So chicken cordon bleu actually just means blue ribbon chicken, and it sounds a lot fancier than it actually is. It's literally just chicken with some ham and cheese inside. You roll it up, and then you put some breadcrumbs on the outside, brown them, and that's the chicken. So let's go ahead and get started. First things first, I need a drink. It is about 110 outside right now, so it's a bit warm, and I've been drinking nothing but water all day. Now that we're cooking, I'm going to switch to a nice IPA. Lagunitas Brewing Company makes some amazing beer. I actually used to work there. Not sponsored by them, although that would be kind of fun. But I'm going to be drinking Maximus. It is 8% and a really tasty beer if you like IPAs. So what we're going to do to get started is we're going to have some plastic wrap out, or some saran wrap. And I've basically got this giant roll that I got like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, and still hasn't run out. The reason that I like this large roll is because it's actually wide enough that I can do things with larger pieces of meat. So for example, if I'm putting together like a beef Wellington or something, it's got the width to be able to do that with the beef Wellington. I'm just going to pull this out on top of my cutting board and just use my knife here to trim it. And I'm going to grab my chicken breast. I'm cooking for one today, so use basically one chicken breast per person that you're cooking for today. I'm just going to lay that right in the middle. And you're going to want to lay it cut side up. So you want the breast side, so the upper side, I guess, on the cutting board surface like so. We're going to spread out our saran wrap a little bit. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to put another layer right over on top of it, because we're going to use either a rolling pin or a meat tenderizer, mallet, or whatever you've got to kind of flatten this out a bit. And this is always the fun part because the static wants to pull the plastic together. But basically what you want is 2 layers of plastic over this chicken so that you can pound it out and not get meat all over your implement. Go ahead and trim that. Perfect. There we go. And I've got this little awesome meat mallet here. Hey, Sean. Can't wait to come up and have that Pliny. They also make, Russian River makes some really good beer as well. Pliny the Elder, Pliny the Younger, Blind Pig, a lot of really good stuff. We're basically just going to pound this out. We want it to be about 1/8 of an inch thin. You want it to be pretty thin. So go ahead and just, you don't have to like slam on it, but you do want to thin it out. And you don't have to worry so much about the already thinner side, the tapered end. You really want to just kind of flatten out the thick side. And it's going to take about 5 minutes of pounding. And one trick you can do is you can actually get a little bit of water on the chicken before you put the plastic wrap on top, so it doesn't stick to the chicken. But you don't have to if you don't want to. You notice I didn't. And we're just going to pound it until it's about 1/8 of an inch thin. And the reason you want it so thin is because we're going to be rolling it. And the thicker it is, the harder it is to roll. And it just doesn't quite work as well as you would want it to. Then every so often, just pause, straighten out your saran wrap here. And then continue. Now don't use the tenderizer side of your mallet if you have one. Go ahead and use just the flat end, or if you're using a rolling pin, same thing, just rolling pin it. And yes, Mom, you can definitely put it in a freezer bag. I like this a little bit better because then I'm actually going to reuse this plastic and help it roll when we get to that point. But you can do whatever you would like and set it up however you would like. So here we go. You'll notice that this is actually giving you a much larger piece of chicken as well. And be careful with your fingers. I'm just kind of using them to hold the chicken in place, but I'm making sure to not put them anywhere near where the mallet is banging down. And hopefully the mallet banging isn't too loud for y'all. And the saran wrap might rip like mine did right here. That's fine. It's not too big of a deal. You can just kind of put it back in place and continue. But just be careful when you start rolling it that your upper layer of saran wrap, make sure there aren't any bits of saran wrap left in your chicken. So I'm going to take this top layer here off. A little piece of chicken came off, but that's fine. We're going to get that in the garbage. And there we go. We've got our nice thin chicken breast. And you would basically repeat this for every person that you're making one of these for. So if you got 4 people, just take care of this for 4 people, 4 times. And you can get this done ahead of time. So you can set all of this up like the day before if you wanted to. And if you kind of peel it off of the saran wrap, you'll notice you got a nice thin piece of chicken, which is exactly what you want, about an eighth of an inch thick. We're just going to lay it out kind of, I guess, wider this way, so horizontally wide. And then we're going to start building on top of it. Now, you can use any kind of ham you want. That's basically, before we put the ham on, we're going to grab some of our Dijon mustard. And I got some unnamed mustard that's got the grain in it. You don't have to use the grain mustard. You can use regular Dijon if you want. I'm just going to use a little brush and very lightly brush a layer of this mustard onto the chicken before we start building. You don't want too much. You don't want it like glooped all over the place. You just want a nice thin layer. And this will kind of help the ham stick to the chicken, as well as add a little bit of flavor. How's everybody's week been going? Are you guys dealing with the heat wherever you are? I know, Sean, you're up in the Sacramento area, and Mom, you're over in Danville. Where's everybody else at? And how are you guys dealing with the heat? I'm actually just going to toss this in the sink. And we're going to get started with layering this. I just got some deli ham. If you want, you can actually go and grab some prosciutto or Parma ham, like a really nice ham. You might want to actually double up layers on that because that is super thin ham. Actually, you know what? I have some, so I might actually switch over and use that. I basically kept my lights off all day, set up for the cook-along here, and left everything off until it was time to go because I didn't want to add any unnecessary heat. My house doesn't have, it's got like a wall unit, which is actually behind the camera, and that's basically all it's got for air conditioning. No insulation in the attic or anything like that, so it gets pretty warm in here pretty quick when you get the lights and the electronics on. So basically just kept everything off. So Parma ham, you'll notice this is super, super thin. The other ham, the deli ham, is usually about twice as thick. So if you're gonna go ahead and use Parma ham or prosciutto, just kind of double it up. You don't have to. If you don't like so much ham, don't use so much ham. It's your chicken cordon bleu. So what we want to do is we want to layer the ham as far close to you as you can. So I'm putting it basically right up on the edge here of this side of the chicken. One slice there. We'll put the second slice. I'm going to overlap it just slightly, basically so that the meat overlaps with the fat edge that we have here. Just something like so. And 2 is perfect. That's actually going to cover, we want about an inch of space on the end for kind of like an overlap. And my cat decided to come out and visit me now, so you might hear her in the background meowing. Yes, cat, go away. I'm cooking. And like I said, we're gonna double this up. Oh yeah, I got lots of really good beer in the fridge. I don't drink very much beer though. Usually only, I mean, you see I poured mine and I haven't even taken a sip yet. I drink a lot of water. And unfortunately, a lot of soda, diet soda, which I know is terrible for me, but it just tastes so good, and it's bubbly. Need to get off that train. All right, we'll double up our layer here of prosciutto, and this time I'm going to lay it the opposite direction. So now I've got my fat edges pointing towards me instead of pointing towards the camera, and that way you just get kind of an even layering there. And we'll do the same thing with this. We'll put the fat layer just overlapping the meat layer on this side and just lining it up with the existing ham. Something like that. Perfect. And I got this little bit that didn't come off, and we'll put him right there. Cool, so we got our ham layer in. Get rid of some of these little papers. And we'll put this back in the fridge. Next up, we're going to put down a layer of cheese, and I've already got some Gruyere here from our grilled cheese episode. Oh, speaking of which, today is episode 25, so welcome to a quarter century of Cook-Along Lives. It's been a lot of fun putting these together with y'all. Thank you so much for watching every week. I hope that you guys are learning stuff and giving these things a try. There's a lot of really good food here that you can play around with. We're just going to layer the Gruyere cheese. Any kind of Swiss cheese will work just fine. And we're just going to layer it over our ham. It looks like I could probably use a couple more slices. And again, you just kind of want to make sure that you're getting it as close to the edge on this side as you can. So maybe line it up with the ham, and then keeping an overlap on the other side as well. So let me slice off just a couple more pieces. Trusty cheese cutter. These things work really well. I was very opposed to these for the longest time until close friend of mine actually demonstrated one to me, and I was like, oh my god, that is the coolest thing in the world. And now I swear by them. And I'm basically going to shape this so that it just fills in the voids. It doesn't have to be perfect because the cheese is going to melt as the chicken cooks. But you do kind of want to get as much coverage as you can. A little bit of cheese for Doggo. Good boy. And then a little bit of cheese for the chef. Awesome, awesome. So here we go. Last thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to season this side of everything inside. And the reason that I'm doing that is because I forgot to do it before I put everything on top, and I'm too lazy to take it all off. So this is what we're doing. Get some good seasoning there. We're also going to put some pepper on top. And now what we're going to do is we're going to use this piece of plastic that we've got laid out to kind of roll this on top of it itself. And you want to make it tight, but you don't want to stress too much about it. If it's rolling and coming together, that's great. You don't have to worry about getting it super, super tight. But you basically just want to kind of grab the edges here and kind of flip it over on itself like so. And you don't want to roll the plastic inside the roll. You want to fold it over and then pull the plastic off and then continue to fold with the plastic. Let the plastic help you lift the chicken up off the board, but use your fingers to get the chicken to roll over on itself. Like so. And then just same thing, just keep walking the chicken up, and you'll notice that the cheese and the ham start kind of sliding up the chicken breast, and that's why we left that inch or so of overlap. You're probably still going to have a little bit sticking out of the bottom of the chicken, but that's fine. Don't worry too much about it. But try to get as much to stay inside the roll as possible. Again, not a huge issue if you get some sticking out the bottom. It's not a big deal, but you want to keep it as as tight as you can. And then this is very similar almost to like the sushi roll that well, if you guys were watching the sushi episode, same thing, we're just not using the bamboo to help with this, although I guess you could. But you basically just want to come up with a nice kind of tight roll here. And just make sure none of the saran wrap is like inside the roll. You should be able to totally open it up like so. And then you should have a nice, basically chicken roulade is kind of what you're making here. Now what I'm going to do is actually use my plastic wrap to roll it all the way back to this side, the first side, the side closest to you. And I'm just kind of stretching out my saran wrap, getting rid of all of the little bunched up bits, or as much of them as I can. I want this to be a nice kind of smooth piece of cling film. There we go. Now I'm going to make sure that the seam is on the bottom. Going to pick it up and move it down here. Now I'm going to season the outside of the chicken as well. And that's going to look like this. I'm going to tilt it slightly towards me. Make sure you season all of the sides of this chicken cordon bleu. You don't need a huge amount of salt, but you do want to get a good amount of flavor on the chicken. So just make sure that it's well covered. And you'll see that I've got some cheese kind of sticking out the bottom there. But it's not too big of a deal. There we go. And then same thing with the pepper. You can also just kind of put the pepper down on the plastic wrap. You could probably do it with the salt too, and just roll it, because it'll get picked up as you're kind of sealing this in. There we go. Cool. So make sure that you got it on its seam where the two edges meet. And now what we're going to do is just roll this up on top of itself. Let me see if I'm missing anything. I don't believe so. I think we're good. So we're going to now take the saran wrap, put it nice and tight up against the chicken, and just roll this whole thing together. And now it doesn't matter because all the saran wrap is going to be on the outside, and we're going to use this to kind of form the chicken and let it kind of hold this shape. So now you want to make it pretty tight. Again, don't worry too much because you're going to have an opportunity here to tighten it. We're going to roll this like so, make a nice little parcel for our chicken. Now, pull the saran wrap sideways and get as much air out of this as you can, and then use your I don't know, make little rings like this around the edges, and you're going to kind of squeeze them shut and push the chicken together. So we're going to go like this. We're going to kind of work our hands out like so, and then as we get towards the end of the chicken, we're going to kind of squeeze so that it pushes the chicken back towards the center. Let me go ahead and switch to that. I'm not sure if you guys can see it better on this angle, but you're going to be going like this. And then you're going to squeeze the end. You see how the chicken's kind of squeezing back into the saran wrap? That's what you want. And then same thing on the other side. You want to make this as tight as you can get it without breaking the saran wrap. And now what you're going to do is basically just pick a side. I'm going to pick my left hand over here. And I'm just going to start spinning it so that I get a nice tight kind of knot on that side. And I'm also going to hold this side. And what you're going to notice is that they're actually wrapping in opposite directions, but they're both tightening down on the chicken. And you're making a nice parcel here. Now, if you wanted to, you could probably cook this sous vide. I've not tried that yet. So I wouldn't put it, I wouldn't say that that's a bad idea, because you could actually cook the whole thing in a sous vide water bath right at the temperature that you want it to. And then at the end, basically complete the process and get your nice crispy panko exterior on it. But for tonight, or this cook along, we're just going to do a traditional way. So I've got this nice and tight. Shut up, Siri. We're going to make this nice and tight, and we're going to put it in the fridge for about 20 minutes. So you can also kind of roll it along your cutting board if you want. Just walk it. You just want these edges to be super, super tight, these corners, because what it's doing is it's squeezing the chicken into a shape that it'll be able to hold without using toothpicks or anything else. And then we're going to fold these over on the same side, and I've got them on the same side that the seam is. So I don't know if you can see that, but there's that little piece of cheese that was kind of sticking out. So this is where my seam is. I'm gonna put the rolled edges on this side, and then when I put it in the fridge, that's the side that's gonna hold it all together. That way I don't have to worry about like tying it or anything. It's just the weight of the chicken is going to keep it. And you're gonna basically make one of these, same thing, for every person that you are feeding. Now, if you've got a bunch of other extras that you're making, you know, you can cut this in half and, you know, have one serve 2 people. Totally up to you on your serving size. But I usually just kind of do 1 per person is kind of how I think about it. Hey, Dad, it is 100 and, well, last I checked, it was 110 degrees. I'll check in a second and give you an update. Hey, Core Gaming, yeah, definitely, I do. Actually, the SU33 is the same as the SU27. All the keyboard commands are the exact same. They're all Flaming Cliffs 3 planes, and if you just follow the tutorial and start doing kind of some of the same things with the SU33, you'll get the same. It's actually the same, even if you're doing air-to-air. The tutorials are the same. So look up my SU25T tutorial and just apply it to the SU33. So we're gonna put this parcel in the fridge for about 20 minutes. Just find a nice spot, make sure that you got the seam on the bottom so that those don't unravel at all, and we're just gonna leave those there. While we're waiting on that, let's get this out of the way. Oh, and by the way, Core Gaming, yes, I do play DCS. I play Flight Simulator X-Plane, and I do flight vlogs as well. So there's a lot of content on my channel. The cook-alongs are a quarantine thing that I started and has worked out really well. I'm actually going to make a couple of sides to go along with my chicken cordon bleu. So I'm going to basically just make some green beans. I'm going to make some potatoes, not roast potatoes, but like sauteed potatoes. And we're going to get these started while we're waiting for that to chill. So I'm going to fill a pot with some water. And we're going to get this boiling. We're going to kind of parboil our potatoes and parboil blanch our green beans. So we'll get that going. Let's see, potatoes look good, they're all clean. If you wanted to, you could trim your beans up. These all look pretty good to me. And the purpose behind this is you're basically kind of partially cooking these so that when you're pan frying them or sauteing them later, they're already cooked. You don't have to worry so much about cooking them through. You're just trying to get color on them. So we'll get the potatoes in there for probably about 5-ish minutes, just until they kind of get softly cooked. And then these guys are only gonna go in there for like a minute or 2, just to kind of blanch them through, and then we'll put them into a colander, strain them out, and chill them down with some rinse water. So while we're waiting for this to come up, let's go ahead and switch to sync cam. And we're coming over here because I gotta get my colander set up because I did not do that yet. Let's see. And while I'm over here, I've got this small little oven, which is actually going to use a lot less electricity and keep my kitchen cooler. Go ahead and get your oven set to 400 degrees preheating, because that's what we're going to actually get the chicken into after we've browned it. So I've got my colander set up. We're waiting on the water to boil, and I believe that's all I'm waiting for at the moment. So let's go back over to the cutting board. All right, we're back. Awesome, awesome. So we're just waiting for this to kind of come to a boil. I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of salt to it. And what the salt is gonna do is season the green beans and the potatoes. And you can add quite a bit of salt to your water. Most of it will not get absorbed by your food, but you do wanna make sure that your water is kind of salty, because otherwise you won't be seasoning anything. And now I can take a sip of my beer while we're waiting. What do you guys like to drink? Do you guys like drinking beer? Are you guys more wine people, spirits? What's your drink of choice? Devin, I haven't played with the J11 actually, so I don't know very much about how to do that. I know that if you're doing the SU27, so the SU-25T does not have a radar for locking planes. So in that case, there's actually a couple of videos that are way better than anything I could put together, and I don't remember who did them, but it's for the F-15, for the Flaming Cliffs F-15. It will explain how to do air-to-air engagements using the radar, and I recommend trying to find that tutorial for learning that aspect of the Su-33 or the J-11. Other than that, all of the Flaming Cliffs planes are pretty much the same, and that's kind of what makes Flaming Cliffs really easy to jump into. You can fly an air-to-ground plane, you can fly a air-to-air plane, you can fly a multi-role plane like the A-10, and all of them use the same keyboard commands and the same controls. So, and the same HUD system. So if you're switching between like navigation or air-to-air engagements or air-to-ground engagements, it's all the same buttons to switch into those modes. Makes it really easy to pick new airframes up and kind of figure out what you're doing with them. So highly recommend that for sure. Spirits. All right, do you drink them like neat? Do you like them in mixed drinks? I'm a whiskey guy. I love whiskey, beer, and wine. So I'm just curious. Let's get some specifics. Thank you, Stu. My kitchen is pretty cool. I do enjoy it, and the way I've got it set up is nice. I think the only thing that would make this better would be if I had like a vent hood right above me, but then I wouldn't be able to have that camera right above me. So, you know, gotta kind of think about things like this. If we switch back over to the sync cam, you'll notice that my range is actually kind of in the corner over here. And if I have like guests over and I'm sitting here cooking, my back is to them, it's not very entertaining. So kind of resetting everything up on the center island and kind of making it work however I could is awesome. And of course it lends itself very well to these cook-alongs. And we are back. Waiting for the water to boil. It's starting to kind of simmer. So another minute or so, and we'll get this up. Another thing that I've been working on lately is my instrument rating. I actually went out last night and did a couple of approaches with an instructor. Getting really a lot better at those. I'll probably start streaming some X-Plane, doing some IFR stuff, and show you just how hard it is. But yeah, that's been a lot of fun as well. I'm hoping that I can get my instrument rating wrapped up by the end of the year. Rattlers are really good. So we're gonna actually boil our potatoes first, and then we're just gonna get them in there until they're soft. We want a paring knife to basically be able to just kind of go through them with a little bit of resistance. You don't want a lot of resistance. And after we get our potatoes kind of heated through, we're gonna just take them out and rinse them underneath the colander and under cold water to stop the cooking. And then we'll get our green beans going, same thing. Those are just gonna go in there for like a minute. We only wanna kind of, it's called blanching, and basically you're like partially cooking, you're parboiling something, and the green beans are so thin that they cook very fast. You don't wanna cook them too much because otherwise they get super soggy when you actually go to saute them. You just want to you're basically shocking them. You're cooking like the outer quarter of them and then also warming the insides of them so that when you put them in the pan, they actually cook all the way through a lot quicker. And that's my little oven over there getting to temperature, so we're preheated to 400. Vodka, neat, or rum? Yeah, okay. I like rum. Probably for me it would be like whiskey first, then maybe some gin. I love gin, and this is boiling, so I'm gonna go ahead and put the potatoes in. Be careful when you're putting them in. I don't have any feeling in my hands anymore because I cook so much, but the water will splash up and possibly burn you, so you could use a slotted spoon to put these in. I'm just gonna go ahead and dip them in like so, and we're gonna let those kind of boil for about 5 minutes. Then we'll test them with a knife. It would probably be whiskey or scotch. Like both of them are pretty good for me. Then I think I'd go for gin. What else would I do after gin? I guess vodka. Vodka's okay. I'm not a huge tequila fan. That's one of the things, like my cousin loves tequila, and he gets like super awesome tequila, and he really, really enjoys it. He'll sip that neat. I like margaritas, but I like strawberry margaritas because they're sweet. I'm not a fan of I'm not a fan of the tequila flavor, I guess. I don't know. Hey, Blue Baron, what's up, man? So, I'll give you a little bit of history about the chicken Cordon Bleu. Basically, the name means blue ribbon chicken, and it's just kind of a way, it's actually a simple way to kind of spruce up just standard chicken. So it's a chicken breast that's been kind of pounded nice and thin, and then you put some ham inside, you put a little bit of Dijon mustard inside, some ham, and then some Swiss cheese. You kind of roll it up to make like a roulade almost, and then you put breadcrumbs on the outside, toast them in a pan, and then finish it in the oven. And then you make like a nice either Dijon sauce or just a simple pan sauce or whatever to kind of coat it when you're done. So very actually simple to make. Takes a little bit of time because a lot of it's just waiting. But tasty, definitely levels up the chicken and is not super difficult. I've never had kombucha, I don't know. And I love cooking with brandy. So Gordon Ramsay makes an awesome bananas Foster, and he calls it Gordon's Flaming Bananas, I think, or Gordon's Hot Bananas. And it's basically bananas Foster. So you're basically making a quick caramel. You're getting bananas kind of coated with the caramel. You're pouring brandy over them, and then you're lighting it on fire for a flambe. It's a great party trick. Tastes amazing, and you just serve it over some vanilla ice cream. Maybe we'll do that for one of the cook-along lives, but not when it's 110 degrees Fahrenheit outside. I think that's like 45 or 46. Hey Siri, how hot is it outside?
It seems rather hot to me. It appears to be smoky right now, with a temperature of 111 degrees.
Ah, so it's 111 degrees right now. Hey Siri, what's the temperature in Celsius?
It's about 44 degrees Celsius outside.
So 44 degrees Celsius outside right now. So it's a bit warm. And for this area, that's pretty hot. Usually like, I don't know, 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 105 is kind of like our max. So we're a little bit over that. Let me get a paring knife and we'll check those potatoes. Let's give this a shot. How are you guys doing? Still a little bit hard, but getting there. So almost done with the potatoes. And let me actually do this. Let me grab a bowl. I'll transfer the potatoes into a bowl and then move those over to the colander, and I'll put the green beans right in while I'm doing that. That'll make things a little bit easier. And we'll use our spider here. So one of the things that I'm starting to kind of plan for and arrange and get some logistics around is doing a cook-along live for Thanksgiving. So I'm actually kind of curious, what would work for all of you? Would you guys be interested in like an all-day Thanksgiving stream where I'm just making stuff one after the other for a Thanksgiving cook? Would you want me to do that on the Sunday before Thanksgiving, the Sunday after Thanksgiving, on Thanksgiving? I don't think we're going to be having any large family gatherings this year since pandemic and all of that, but I'm not 100% sure. But I'm curious, what would be interesting to you guys? Would it be, obviously you probably wouldn't sit around for an all-day stream, but would it be interesting for everybody to like pop in for 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there and see something going on all day? Or would that be a little bit overkill? Just curious, just kind of putting it out there and trying to figure out what would be a good thing to pursue for Thanksgiving. And then also for Christmas, it would be a different dinner, different dish and stuff like that. But I'm just kind of curious what your guys' thoughts are on that. Oh my goodness, how are you guys getting snow? You guys are in Montana, right? Blue Baron, it's like a Christmas dinner. I think in the UK, you guys do like either a roast beef or a roast ham or a turkey. So Thanksgiving dinner is turkey, mashed potatoes, gravy, usually various kinds of squash or like green bean casseroles, things like that. Very hearty, very complicated, a lot of stuff going on at once. But something that I love doing every year, and generally takes most of the day to kind of put it together and kind of choreograph it. And then if you do any kind of dessert as well, that's just on top of everything. So It would be a bit much for like a standard stream format like this, where it takes about an hour to get these dishes kind of done. That would be like a longer form thing, and there would pretty much be something going on the entire stream. You guys are at, hey Dad, you guys are at Glacier, right? Glacier right now? All right, potatoes are about done. So I'm not gonna pour these out, I'm just gonna scoop them out into this bowl, and then I'm gonna transfer them over to a colander over the sink to let them kind of steam a little bit. And what I'm gonna do is I'm actually just gonna put these green beans in here, and by the time I get back, they'll be ready to kind of come out. So let's get those under the water. And again, we're just parboiling the green beans. We're not getting them cooked per se. We're just getting them slightly cooked, so that when we actually saute them later, we don't have to put them in the pan for so long. They'll already be mostly cooked. We're just putting a little bit of color on them and getting some of the aromatics like garlic and onion cooked as well. So back over here. Let this go for another 30 seconds or so, and then we'll just pour the whole thing out. And then we'll go and grab our chicken out of the fridge, which should have pretty much kind of formed up. The cool air in the fridge will have tightened everything up, and it'll help the chicken hold its form. We're gonna get this over into our colander, and we're gonna spray it down with some cold water. I didn't switch to the sink cam, I'm sorry, but all I'm doing is just kind of getting some cold water over all of the potatoes and green beans so that we stop the cooking. Just took a bite of one, and it's perfect. Nice and soft, but not cooked all the way through. All right. Get that out of the way, get that out of the way, and we will go back and grab our chicken. So we got our chicken. It's been chilled. It's gonna hold its form a lot better this way than it would have when it was warm. And what we're gonna do is basically just clip off the ends of this saran wrap. And then we're going to unwrap the chicken. Like so. And now we're gonna start basically breading this so that we can get nice color on it. Let's get this up to medium high. And got a couple of things here. So I got a bowl here with an egg in it. Egg wash, basically. One egg and then a little bit of water. Got some flour. And then we got some panko breadcrumbs over here. I'm gonna wait on these. I'm gonna bring them over in just a second. Basically what we wanna do with our chicken is we're gonna do kind of a quick dredge here. Get that over to the side. Pick it up, you'll notice that it's holding its form. You don't wanna work with it too much because you'll warm it up and it'll start kind of coming apart. But you basically just wanna, as best you can, get a light layer of egg on the outside of this chicken. Like so. Then we're going to move it to the flour and get a light layer of flour on the outside of the chicken. Like so. And again, you'll want to do this for every chicken roulade or chicken cordon bleu that you have put together. You want to kind of dust off the excess. I'm going to move these to the side. And now what we're going to do, dust off the excess here. One more roll through the egg wash. And what this does is almost creates like a glue on the outside of the chicken here. And then we're going to roll it through the panko breadcrumbs. And this is going to get everything on the outside nice and crispy. Make sure you get it coated I'm using a small plate, which probably should have used a bigger plate than what I got, but I'm already committed, so this is just what I'm gonna do. There we go, nice little layer of panko on the outside. And our chicken is prepped and ready to go into the pan. Find the seam if you can. I'm gonna set it on the cutting board there, and then we'll get this out of the way. I'm gonna wash my hands real quick. There we go. Our pan should be nice and preheated. And now you've got a couple of options. You can either put some butter in here or you can use oil. I'm actually going to use butter because it gives it a nice little toasty flavor. Probably about a tablespoon of butter or so. You want enough to coat the bottom of the pan. There we go. Let that melt. I'm going to set this aside because I'm going to use it for the sauce as well. There we go. Looks awesome. Roast pork. Interesting. I've never had a bad aftertaste with roast pork, but I'm not going to say that you're wrong. I've just never experienced that myself. And it's kind of subjective a little bit. I'm going to let this kind of brown just a little bit. Now we're just going to go ahead and put our chicken in the pan. And you definitely want to start hearing some of the sizzling. If the chicken is not sizzling in the pan, pan's not warm enough. So take it off and give it a second to warm up a little bit more. And then just make sure you kind of press down because you want the entire chicken contacting the pan. Knife sharpening recommendations. So I do my own knife sharpening. I have a couple of whetstones that I do sharpening with. Otherwise, you should be able to find, if that's not something that you're interested in doing, usually here in the States, hardware stores will do knife sharpening. They've actually got a sharpener that they'll put their knives through or your knives through. Or here there are also traveling knife sharpeners who will actually like stop at a particular location and advertise that, hey, this week I'm going to be at wherever, and you can find them, and they're really not that expensive. I think it's like $3 a knife or something like that. They're pretty affordable. All right, so let me actually turn this. Well, you'll see it when I rotate it this way again. You'll notice that I'm getting a nice brown crust on the outside of this. You don't have to worry too much about getting this perfect on the outside because it's going to go in the oven for another 10-15 minutes. Right now, all you're trying to do is get the browning on the outside. If you know where the seam was, you're kind of sealing that together because the egg, the panko, and all of that is kind of creating a little bit of a barrier there. But what you're really just trying to do is kind of brown your panko on the outside. There we go. Okay, yeah, I mean, I could definitely put together a whetstone video. It doesn't take too long to do for one knife, but if you're doing like, I've got probably 4 knives that I do, so it's like 15 minutes a knife. It can take about an hour, hour and a half, depending on how many knives you're doing, but the process is the same and kind of the theory is all the same. So once you've seen one, you can just kind of apply it yourself. And what did I want? I wanted my bench scraper so that I can clean off my cutting board. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of pop some stuff off of the cutting board for now. And I like these dough scrapers, or bench scrapers they call them as well, because I can take all of this kind of junk and just scrape it into a pile. And then just get it off the cutting board. Now, of course, if I'm done cooking, I'll take the time to actually clean the cutting board off and all of that. But if I'm in the middle of something and I don't need to like sanitize the cutting board because I'm going to be cooking everything, this is a real quick way to just kind of like clean things off. And let's go ahead and flip you. Go ahead and do this. Make sure that it's nice and oiled on all sides. We're just, again, we're not trying to cook this all the way through. The cheese probably won't melt very much this way. We're just trying to get the nice brown crust on the outside so that when we put it into the oven, that's done, and all we're doing at that point is cooking it through. And that'll take about 15-ish minutes, 15, 20 minutes, depending on how thick the chicken is. And that's another reason you want to kind of pound it out nice and thin, get it down to about that 1/8 of an inch thickness, whatever, however you want to say it, because it'll actually help the chicken cook quicker. I'm actually going to flip it and get this side just a little bit more brown as well. A couple minutes on that side. Awesome. No, this doesn't have a built-in scale. What it's got is a heat temperature setting. So I can actually say I want it to cook at 375 degrees Fahrenheit, which I don't know what that is, probably 200 degrees-ish Celsius. But I can get very precise with like what temperature I want. So if I know that something cooks really well, like boiling water, for example, it's about 220 degrees Fahrenheit. So if I want something to simmer, I can set this to like 240, depending on the size of the pot, because the pot's going to absorb some of the energy. But if I just want something at a simmer, I can really quickly just say, you know, medium, which will be about 275, and then just drop it down to like 240 really quick, and then I know that the pot's going to go into a simmer. So it's an induction cooktop, so it's basically an electromagnet that heats up the pan, and it just gets you really, really precise control over how much you're cooking. Also, no flame, so I don't need to pipe gas over here. It's a lot more efficient and quick than, say, an electric coil. So it just works really well. I have been using this for probably, I don't know, 5-ish years, 4 or 5 years, and I love it. It's fantastic. I'm gonna spin this around just a bit, get that other side cooked a little bit more, and then we will transfer to a sheet tray. And I've got a little metal grate here, like a cookie sheet or something, or a cookie cooler here. And I'm actually going to put a layer of aluminum foil on the bottom here. Where is my aluminum foil? And the reason I'm putting aluminum foil on the pan is because it makes cleanup super simple. If any of the cheese drips out, I don't have to scrape it off the pan. I just pick up the aluminum foil and throw it away. Makes it nice and easy. Something like that. Get our little tray, and then putting it up on one of these cooling racks allows airflow to get underneath, above, so you're getting a much quicker cook because it's coming from all directions, as opposed to just being on the sheet tray and restricting airflow to one side. And let's see. Looks all right. Go ahead and just set this on the sheet tray. This is going to go in the oven, and then we're going to get started cooking our sides. Let's see, what time is it? 5:18. We'll put this in for about 20 minutes, I think it'll take us. Oops, I'll keep it at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is in Celsius. I think it's 220. But if you're in the UK, definitely do a conversion on that, because it's probably not correct. Cool. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to do our potatoes first. So I'm going to pull them out of our colander strainer here. And they're still a little wet, which is fine. And I've got this still kind of cooking away, which is fine, because we're just going to keep reusing the oil and butter in here. Might actually add a little bit more butter. Get some of this stuff out of the way. There we go. And what I'm going to do is basically cut these long ways in half, like so. And they should be cooked to the point where they're soft, but not falling apart, like mushy. If you're doing like mashed potatoes, when you start cutting through the potatoes just gonna fall apart because it's cooked all the way through. You don't want that. You want these to be still able to hold together, but they should be more or less cooked most of the way through. And what that allows us to do is, rather than trying to cook them while we're sauteing them here in the pan, they're already pretty much cooked. All we're trying to do is get color on them. The potatoes are going to take a little bit longer to brown than the green beans, so we're going to do the potatoes first and the green beans second. There we are. And then really all I'm going to do is just kind of separate these out, like so. And then I'm going to put a little bit more butter into the pan. And if you guys have seen me do my Brussels sprouts, we're going to cook these in a very similar way, where we put them in one at a time and kind of go clockwise so that we know which one the first one was, so we can flip it to see if they're all cooked, because then as you go around and flip them, they'll all be cooked about the same amount of time. I'm going to go ahead and season the pan just a little bit, because then when I put the potatoes down, they'll absorb that flavor, that salt. So we'll start up here at the top. Go 1, go 2, go 3, hey, splatter. Go 4, careful with this because when it splatters, it is hot. And we're really just going around in a clockwise formation, clockwise order, making sure that the cut side is down so that it gets a nice crispy golden brown crust on it. Like so. Now that I've got them all in, I can kind of move them closer to the center so they all cook. Yikes, that was warm. And I know that the first potato that I put in was this one. So when I start checking to see if they're done, this is the one that I'm going to start flipping. And if this one here is done, there's a pretty good chance that all of the rest of them are done. And as I'm flipping them around, it's going to take me about the same amount of time to go around and flip them all over. So they should pretty much all be cooked about the same amount, same brownness, same doneness. Hot, hot, hot. And more beer. Hey, Billy, how's it going, man? Used to be into cooking before you met your missus. She doesn't like you cooking. She's in charge of the kitchen and there's no sharing. Yep. Hey, you know what? If she doesn't want to let you help cook, I don't blame you for the direction you're going with that. I think that's fine. So I can flip that around, not quite cooked yet, so I'm just going to leave them all, let them saute a little bit. Now if you wanted, you could add garlic to this, and you get some garlic potatoes. So let's grab a clove of garlic and chop it up and go ahead and do that, actually. There we go. Slightly crushing the garlic is the easiest way to get the skin off. It pretty much separates around the entire clove. And then you can just kind of slice through it a couple times, slice it horizontally a couple of times, and dice. You'll notice I always curl my fingers backwards, and then I'm using my knuckle here as my finger guard. Basically, the flat of the knife can go up against my knuckle, and then I can just rock the knife backwards. And there's a very, very low chance that you'll ever cut yourself that way. Let's go ahead and sprinkle the garlic in a little bit, like so. And the garlic will start browning, it'll start flavoring the butter. And we'll do the same thing when we do our green beans. We'll do garlic and shallots with the green beans as well. Cool, let's check. Not quite there yet. How about you? Nope, still not. So what I'm going to do is basically just kind of spin these around just to get the garlic going. I'm still keeping track of which one was the original potato. But I want to get the garlic flavor on all of them. There go. So now my first potato is this one right here, and I'll flip it in just a second. And just kind of make sure, like, there's a lot of little panko crumbs in there, so it's actually lifting some of the potatoes off the bottom. So just make sure that they're all in contact with the pan, otherwise you're not going to get any color on the potato. I actually might turn this up to high, get some color on there. I love garlic. And so we've got our chicken in the oven. Got about 13 minutes left on that. And we should be done with this to the side, and we're gonna make a sauce for our chicken as well. And we should be done with all of that by the time the chicken is done cooking. So here in the States, we got tomorrow off. It's Labor Day for us. Nice long weekend. I always love holiday weekends. I like taking the extra day and just kind of doing nothing, or sometimes cleaning the house if I haven't done that in a while. What are you guys doing? I know several of you guys are in the UK, or at least not in America, so I'm curious, you guys have the day off tomorrow? I think last week was a holiday for people across the pond, but what else you guys got planned this week? September is upon us. We are most of the way done with the year. Go ahead and trim these shallots. And then I have to make a decision whether I want these to be long ways or whether I want them to be rounds with the green beans. I think since the green beans are long, I'm going to make these long cuts. So I'm just going to cut the shallot right down the middle like so. And then just slice through. Now before I get to the root, I'll just remove the root. And then slice like so. And then that'll keep everything kind of uniform in the pan. Everything will be a nice long shape. This one's a little bit thicker, so I'll cut through it twice. And then basically just do the same thing. There we go. Nice long sticks of shallot. That one's not too thick, so we'll just do one. And cut through. There we go. Now the shallots are going to kind of cook down when they go into the pan, which is why I'm not super worried about. I've got quite a bit of shallots compared to the onions or the green beans, but they'll cook down. They'll get soft. There we go. Getting a little bit golden brown. Start flipping these guys. There we go. So nice potatoes there. Keep them on their backs just for a second. Now I'll add a little bit of pepper on top. Not too much. And those are going to be ready to go. I'm actually going to grab the plate that I'm going to be using to plate the meal on. And I'll start arranging these potatoes on here. So I'm going to grab the ones that are not quite browned and actually put them face down at the back of the plate like so. And then I'll use those to build on with the ones that are nice and colored. There we go. Put him in there. Put that guy over there. And I always say that making a dish look good does actually improve how it tastes. If somebody is super impressed with how something looks, you're basically triggering like their anticipation thought process. So they're already imagining how tasty the food is going to be. And then when it ends up being amazing, it just tastes that much better. So we're gonna go ahead, and that looks good. We've already got some garlic in there. I'm gonna add a little bit more butter. I know you guys are probably saying, oh my God, that's a lot of butter. But the thing is, you need some of that fat to get things cooking. And whether you're using butter or whether you're using olive oil or canola oil or whatever, it's all fat, so it doesn't really matter. You just need something in there to get some color on your food. Go ahead and get our shallots into the pan. And get them kind of cooking down. Down to one layer, a little bit more salt. And I like to kind of salt in stages. I'll season in stages. So I'll start with, first thing I put in there, I'll add a little bit of salt. Next thing I put in there, I'll add a little bit more salt. You don't want to do it all at the end, because then what happens is it doesn't have time to absorb the flavor or start sweating out some of the liquid to impart flavor into other bits of the dish. So seasoning as you go is a much better way to kind of develop a depth of flavor as opposed to just making something salty. Get those tossed around with the butter. And it's nice and sizzling, it's doing perfect. Sorry to hear that, Baron. Now, what can we do to these potatoes to make them a little bit nicer? I think I have a microplane grater in here somewhere. Here we go. And I've got some Parmesan cheese. Go ahead and do this. Put a little bit of Parmesan on the potatoes. So now they're cheesy, garlicky potatoes. Set that aside. I'm going to leave the Parmesan out because I think I might put some on the chicken Cordon Bleu as well at the end. Cool, so that looks good. I'm going to go ahead and grab my green beans here. Put them right in the pan. Toss them with the shallots. We're going to add a little bit more salt. Again, building some of that depth of flavor. We've seasoned the shallots, but we have not, with the water in the pot, we've seasoned the green beans a little bit, but a little bit different than adding this last little bit. I'm not going to add any more pepper because there's plenty of pepper in there. Get these guys tossed and mixed. Let those guys go. How much time do I got on my chicken? 5 minutes, 30 seconds, so that's perfect. All right, so everything seems to be going pretty well. We got our potatoes on the plate, we got our green beans ready. I think I'm gonna add some balsamic to this. I had a friend bring me some really nice fig balsamic vinegar from a local friend of theirs. That tastes really good. I think I'm going to use that in here. Now, before you put balsamic vinegar into a pot of anything, pan of anything, you definitely want to turn the heat off, because otherwise the balsamic will kind of vaporize and you'll be having a little bit of trouble trying to breathe. There we go. Go ahead and turn this on low. We'll actually pause it. And we'll just do a little drizzle of balsamic vinegar. Like so. Ooh, that is good. Balsamic vinegar with a hint of that fig flavor. Oh my gosh, it's delicious. There we go. And so now I'm going to put that over on the other side of the plate. I'm going to grab a nice bit of both green beans and shallots. And to set it here on the side of the plate. Let's see, I want that to be turned inside, like so. And you'll notice that I'm using both the tongs and my fingers to kind of arrange it. Now, again, the prettier it looks on the plate, the better it's going to taste. So you don't have to be super crazy about going in here and like making it look awesome, but just trying to arrange things so that they look a little bit planned. Like rough, but a little bit planned. Like somebody could tell you, somebody could believe that you didn't plan on doing this, but they would also kind of see that you did. Controlled chaos, I guess, is kind of what I'm trying to go for here. And so here's our plate. And in the upper camera, it's hard to see, but these green beans are nice and vibrant green. They're not like that dull kind of olive drab that you'll get if you've overcooked them. That tastes amazing. That is delicious. I'm not going to put no Parmesan on the beans. I don't want to mess with that balsamic vinegar. Got about 2 minutes on that. What do I want? Go ahead and grab my little pot here. And we're going to build a sauce. So I'm going to put in about 2 tablespoons of butter. I know, that's a lot of butter. We're going to get this going on medium heat. So you'll notice that now the temperature is 275, so it should melt the butter but not burn it. And I don't want to brown it, I don't want to really burn it. Maybe I want a light toasty brown on there, but I don't want it to get like super dark brown like the rest of it did. And I want about 2 teaspoons of flour. I'm going to use what I use to dredge my chicken in. I know chicken, E. coli, whatever. I'm going to be cooking it, so I'm killing whatever bacteria is in here anyway. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go ahead and put it right on top of the butter. About 2 tablespoons of that. And then I'm going to let the butter melt. And I'm going to mix it around with the flour. I've got a nice spatula here to make sure that it all comes together, and that actually is a little bit low, so I'm going to set it up to 375, maybe drop it down to 300 or 315. I want the butter to melt, and then I want to mix the flour. We're basically making a roux. And then to the roux, we're going to add some milk, so it's going to be like a cream sauce. You can use heavy cream or any kind of cream if you want. I'm just going to be using some whole milk. And then to that, we're going to add a little bit of Dijon mustard to give it that kind of bite flavor. So we got a little bit of Dijon inside the Cordon Bleu. We're going to have a little bit of Dijon in the sauce on the outside of the Cordon Bleu. So you're going to get a little bit of that Dijon flavor, but depending on whether you use the sauce or not, it's going to be a little bit more pronounced or a little bit more subtle. That's kind of what they talk about when people say depth of flavor. We got our roux going. It almost looks like a buttery flour paste, which is perfect. I kind of let this kind of push it together and let it kind of brown just a little bit. And that'll just kind of develop some of that nutty butter flavor. Nutty butter flavor. All right, oven is done. Grab our milk. Hot roux, cold milk means you won't get any lumps in your cream sauce. You go ahead and grab our chicken out of the oven. So here's what the chicken looks like. You'll see that it did kind of start goobering all over the pan. I don't have to worry about cleaning that up. I can just toss the aluminum foil and the pan is still clean. So let me put this over there. Let me move this over to the side just a bit. Let me grab this. And there we go. Chicken cordon bleu is done. We're gonna let that rest for just a second while we build the sauce. And then we're gonna cut it and plate it. There we go. Our roux is looking good. Let's go ahead and add our milk. I'm gonna add, I don't know, maybe 1/4 of a cup to begin with. And mix the roux in. Like so. And you'll notice that it's gonna thicken up, which is what you want. And now we're just gonna pour in the rest of the milk. And then get that all nice and incorporated. You can use a whisk. This is a non-stick pan, so I'm not using a whisk. Oof. It's always fun. And what I'm going to do is go grab my Dijon here. And use a couple of tablespoons of Dijon. And get this incorporated. And we're just going to let this come up to a simmer, and then we're going to turn it off. You'll notice that it's thickening up already. And that's what the roux does. It kind of creates like a cornstarch-ish slurry, which will thicken up whatever you're putting it into. So this will be a nice, light Dijon-based cream sauce. Now, what I recommend you do is that spoon that we use for the Dijon, I'm going to just kind of wipe it off. Give this a taste. And if you need to, add a bit of seasoning. A little bit of pepper. And that's simmering, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. Stir that in. This is going to continue to thicken as it cools. So just keep that in mind. There we go. And let's just... Perfect. So let me get this out of the way. Our chicken is nice and cooked. You can see all the cheese that kind of came out of the chicken and solidified to the aluminum foil. And again, this aluminum foil just makes it easy to clean the pan up. I don't have to worry about scraping that off later. Oof. Oh yeah, you could definitely add some cheese to the sauce. So if you wanted to put some Parmesan into the sauce, you could do that. Now, as far as serving this, I like to actually kind of cut diagonally like so. And just cut right through. And there's some of our Gruyere cheese. I'm going to put this in the middle there. And you'll see that we got some of the Gruyere kind of coming out. You can see the ham wrapped in there. You can see the Gruyere. You can see the chicken around the outside and the nice crispy crust. And I'm going to basically try my best to not squeeze all of the cheese out. This crust is, my knife is not doing very well against the crust. Here we go. Cut like so. Scoop you up. Set you there. I'll do another cut here. There we go. And then I'll just do that like so. And now Since I've got my sides, see I've still got a half a thing left for somebody else. If I had a guest over, I could share it with them. But since I don't, it's just me, I'm gonna go ahead and kind of layer that a little bit better like so. And now I can grab my spoon, where'd it go? Get a little bit of a spoonful of this sauce. Just pour it right over the chicken. And that is a delicious chicken cordon bleu dinner that I think anybody who likes chicken would love. There we go. And the reason I didn't add my cheese to the sauce is because now I can actually use it as a little bit of extra flair on top of the cordon bleu. So there we go. Cheese layered on cheese, layered on cheese with potatoes, some awesome garlic, shallot, balsamic green beans, and a chicken cordon bleu to die for. Get this out of the way for now. Go ahead and kind of slide some of that cheese into the middle. Clean up the edge of the plate ever so slightly. Because again, if it looks good, it's going to taste that much better. And there we go, chicken cordon bleu, potatoes, and green beans. Done. Definitely hope you guys give this a try sometime soon. Let me switch to this camera here. This one usually has a little bit better color representation, so you can actually see the green beans on this are a nice vibrant green. They're not kind of dull. Of course, the chicken looks great, green beans look great, and the potatoes look fantastic. So let's go ahead and grab the sync cam, which is my phone, actually. And let's take a picture for Instagram before I give it a taste. Hardest part about this is remembering to take the Instagram photo. I usually take a bite first, and I'm like, now I've got like a bite taken out, and I've got to rearrange everything and make it look good again. So this time I'm going to try and remember. We'll get this done first. Let's go. And of course, speaking of Instagram, if you wanted to follow me there, I've got lots of food pictures. I've got lots of pictures of my garden. I take aviation stories and stuff like that. So if you want to give me a follow there, you can find me at PSYRIXX. That's my handle pretty much anywhere on the internet. You can find me. Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. And I love putting out content that's enjoyable and entertaining for everybody. There we go, and turn off the f-stop just a bit. Perfect. All right. Grab a knife and a fork, and I'll let you know what I think. And I hope I like it since I cooked it. If I don't like it, I've only got one person to complain to, and that's me. Let's go ahead and take a look. I'll go ahead and I'll just leave it here. So the crust is nice and crusty. The Parma ham, or the prosciutto, it's not Parma ham, I'm sorry, it's prosciutto. Looks awesome in here. Got a little bit of that sauce on here as well. That is good. Thank you so much for watching, Blue Baron, and I hope I see you again in the future. That cordon bleu is delicious. Nice and crunchy. You get the chicken flavor, you get the ham flavor for sure. The melty cheese and the Parmesan on top of it. Really, really wonderful depth of flavor. It's just like, as you're eating, it tastes something new every couple of moments. Let's go ahead and try some of the green beans. Should be nice and garlicky. You'll notice that they're not flaccid. Like, they're cooked, but they're still robust. They're not gross. Garlicky flavor. Bite from the shallots is sweet, but still a little bit of tangy. The balsamic vinegar is just adding to that, and they're seasoned perfectly. Delicious. Now we'll go over to our potatoes. Grab this guy here. Cooked all the way through. Nice bit of crust here on the top of the potato. Very good. Very, very good. Cool, everybody. I hope you all give this a try at some point soon in the future, if you weren't cooking along live with me tonight. And next week, I will endeavor to have the ingredients list up before Sunday. And so hopefully some of you guys can jump in and cook along with me. I'm not sure what I'm doing. I'm thinking fried rice. There have been a lot of people who've been doing fried rice lately, and I might jump on the bandwagon and see if I can do it some justice. But I hope you guys are having a wonderful weekend. I hope you guys have an excellent rest of your week, and I look forward to seeing you on the next Cook Along Live. Have a great night.